The story of Joe Bugner is one of resilience, reinvention, and survival. Born in Hungary during one of the most tumultuous decades of the 20th century, Bugner grew from a war-displaced refugee to a professional athlete who stood toe-to-toe with boxing's most legendary names, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. To many, his name represents courage, durability, and a career defined by persistence rather than flash. By the time of his passing on September 1st, 2025, at the age of 75, Bugner had lived several lives. Champion boxer, actor, author, vineyard owner, reality TV contestant, and even painter. His net worth, though not massive by today's standards, was estimated to be in the several $100,000 range, reflecting both the fortunes earned in the ring and the financial setbacks that came with risky ventures. Bugner's life was not just about the victories or defeats inside the squared circle. It was about his ability to endure. Whether it was escaping a Soviet invasion, facing the jeers of fans who loved Henry Cooper, or battling dementia in his final years, Joe Bugner's story resonates as one of grit and survival. Early life. Joseph Kroll Bugner was born on March 13, 1950, in Szareg, a district of Szeged in southern Hungary. His childhood was shaped by turbulence. In 1956, when Soviet tanks rolled into Budapest to crush the Hungarian Revolution, the Bugner family made a decision that would change their lives forever. They fled the country, carrying little more than their determination to survive. The Bugners arrived in England as refugees. They were initially housed at the Smedley's factory hostel in Wisbech, Cambridgeshire. Life was not easy for young Joe. The family had to adjust to a new language, new culture, and the hardships of starting over in a foreign land. But adversity can sharpen hidden talents. Joe displayed an early knack for athletics. By the age of 14, he was already excelling in sports. In fact, in 1964, he won the National Junior Discus Championship in Britain. Teachers at Goldington Road School in Bedford noticed not only his size and strength, but also his discipline. It was during these formative years that he joined the Bedford Boys Club, training under Paul King. Here, his raw power began to be refined into the art of boxing. By his late teens, it was clear Bugner was not destined for an ordinary life. Personal life. Away from the ring, Bugner's personal life was often as dramatic as his professional career. He married twice. His first marriage was to Melody, with whom he had 3 children, James, Joe Jr., and Amy. However, this relationship was stormy and ended in divorce. Bugner himself later admitted that it had been a mistake. His second marriage was to Marlene Carter, an Australian journalist. The two met at a glittering party hosted by actress Joan Collins. Their union was warmer and more stable, and it marked a turning point in Bugner's life. In 1986, the couple moved to Australia, where Bugner would spend the rest of his life. Together, Joe and Marlene ventured into business, most notably opening a vineyard. Unfortunately, this enterprise collapsed by 1989, costing Bugner around $2 million Australian dollars. Though the loss was devastating, Bugner never let it define him. Beyond his marriages, Bugner explored other interests. He became a painter, selling his works to collectors. He also wrote an autobiography, Joe Bugner, My Story, 2013, which provided candid reflections on his career and personal struggles. As for religion, Bugner kept his beliefs largely private. He did not publicly identify with a particular faith, though friends described him as deeply reflective and respectful of spirituality. In later years, tragedy struck as Bugner developed dementia, requiring care and support in a Brisbane facility. His final years were quieter, away from the spotlight, but his family remained by his side. Professional career. The early rise. Bugner turned professional in 1967, aged just 17. His size, 6 feet 4 inches tall and weighing around 220 pounds, gave him a natural advantage. He quickly built a reputation as a formidable young fighter. The defining moment of his early career came in 1971, when he fought Henry Cooper, Britain's beloved heavyweight champion. Bugner, just 21 at the time, won the fight by a highly controversial decision. With that, he became the British Commonwealth, and European heavyweight champion. Instead of universal admiration, he faced boos. Many fans felt Cooper had been robbed. Bugner, now thrust into the limelight, learned that public opinion could be as brutal as any opponent in the ring. Battling legends. If there is one thing that cements Bugner's place in boxing history, it is the opponents he faced. In 1973, he fought Muhammad Ali in Las Vegas. Bugner went the full 12 rounds but lost on points. 2 years later, in 1975, he faced Ali again, this time in Kuala Lumpur for the World Heavyweight Championship. Once again, he lasted all 15 rounds, though Ali retained his title. In between, Bugner also fought Joe Frazier in 1973, pushing the former world champion hard but losing on points. Few fighters could withstand the relentless pressure of Frazier, but Bugner's defensive skills and durability earned him respect. These matches defined Bugner not as a champion, but as a man who could stand in the ring with the very best. Ali himself later praised Bugner, saying, "He's the toughest man I ever fought." Retirements and comebacks. Bugner retired multiple times, often returning to surprise both fans and critics. In 1976, after a grueling career in Britain, he announced his retirement at just 26. But boxing called him back. By the mid-1980s, he had relocated to Australia, reinventing himself as Aussie Joe. He fought and beat respected opponents like Greg Page and James Tillis. In 1987, however, Frank Bruno stopped him by TKO, leading to another retirement. The 1990s brought his most remarkable comeback. In 1995, at 45 years old, Bugner won the Australian heavyweight title. Then, in 1998, he defeated James "Bone Crusher" Smith to win the World Boxing Federation (WBF) heavyweight championship. At 48, he became the oldest boxer to hold a world championship belt. His final retirement came in 1999, closing a professional record of 83 fights, 69 wins, 41 by knockout, 13 Aussies, and 1 draw. Bugner's style was often criticized as cautious, even defensive, but his longevity and resilience earned him lasting respect. Beyond the ring, Bugner also pursued acting. He starred alongside Bud Spencer in Italian films like I'm for the Hippopotamus, 1979, and appeared in the Hollywood action film Street Fighter, 1994. In 2009, he joined the cast of the British reality show I'm a Celebrity. Get Me Out of Here, introducing him to a new generation of fans. He also took part in charitable work, particularly in Australia, and continued painting as a side passion. House tour and car collection. Unlike some flashy boxing champions, Joe Bugner kept his personal possessions relatively low-key. After moving to Australia, he lived a comfortable but not extravagant life. His attempt to run a vineyard suggested he was more interested in long-term security than luxury. There are no records of Bugner owning a high-profile car collection or palatial mansions. Instead, he lived quietly with his wife Marlene, far removed from the excesses often associated with boxing superstars. Bugner never attended college. By the time his peers were thinking about higher education, Bugner was already making his way in professional boxing. His college, in a sense, was the gym, learning discipline, strategy, and endurance in the ring rather than the classroom. Cause of death. On September 1st, 2025, the world learned of Joe Bugner's death in a care home in Brisbane, Australia. He was 75 years old. The cause was linked to complications from dementia, an illness that had shadowed his later years. For a man whose life had been built on sharp reflexes, physical strength, and mental toughness, the gradual decline was especially poignant. Yet, in typical Bugner fashion, he faced it with dignity, supported by his family. Joe Bugner's life cannot be measured solely in wins and losses. Though he never captured the undisputed world heavyweight crown, he fought the giants of his era and proved his mettle time and again. His journey, from refugee child to boxing legend, from movie actor to Australian icon, illustrates the power of resilience. At times criticized, often underestimated, but always respected by those who shared the ring with him, Bugner embodied endurance. His story is one of survival, against the odds of history, against the punishment of boxing, and against the setbacks of life itself. As the curtain falls on his life in 2025, Joe Bugner leaves behind more than statistics or headlines. He leaves a reminder that true greatness is not only in the victories we claim, but also in the battles we endure.